I thought my marriage was strong, not perfect, but strong enough to survive anything. My husband Daniel and I had been together for 6 years. We had built our life slowly, carefully, like two people stacking fragile glass pieces and hoping none of them would fall. But one message, one single message, proved that everything around me might already be broken. And the worst part? The person trying to destroy my life wasn't a stranger. It was my own sister. At least, that's what I would discover later. But that night, I still believed she loved me. Her name was Olivia. Growing up, we had been inseparable. She was 2 years older than me and always more confident, more beautiful, more popular. People noticed Olivia when she entered a room. I was the quiet sister standing next to her, but I never resented her for that. Not really. When I met Daniel 8 years ago at a small birthday party, Olivia was actually the first person I told. She hugged me and laughed. "You finally found someone decent," she joked. Back then, she seemed genuinely happy for me. Daniel and Olivia also got along well, maybe even too well, though at the time I didn't think anything about it. We had family dinners together, holidays, birthdays, barbecues in our backyard. Everything felt normal, safe. And if someone had told me that the biggest threat to my marriage was sitting at my dinner table every Sunday, I would have laughed in their face. But looking back now, I wish I had paid closer attention. Because the signs were there. Little things. Small moments that didn't seem important at first, like the way Olivia sometimes laughed a little too loudly at Daniel's jokes, or the way she touched his arm when she talked, or how Daniel occasionally looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. At the time, I assumed it was just her personality. Olivia had always been playful, a little dramatic. That was just who she was. At least, that's what I told myself. But everything started to change one Friday evening. Daniel was in the shower after work, and I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone when I received a message request on Instagram. It came from a profile I didn't recognize. No photo, no posts, just a blank account. Normally I would have ignored something like that, but the message preview made my stomach tighten. It said only one sentence. "Your sister is lying to you about your husband." For a moment I just stared at the screen. My first reaction was annoyance. People on the internet say stupid things all the time. It was probably some kind of prank or spam. So I almost deleted it. But something stopped me. Maybe curiosity, or maybe the strange feeling growing in my chest. I opened the message. The full text appeared. "You should ask Olivia why she spends so much time talking to Daniel when you're not around." My heart began beating faster. I felt a small wave of irritation. Whoever wrote this clearly didn't know our family. Olivia would never do something like that. Never. Still, my fingers hesitated above the keyboard. I typed a short reply. "Who is this?" The response came almost immediately. "Someone who knows the truth." I frowned. This was ridiculous. I was about to block the account when another message arrived, and this one made my stomach drop. "Check Daniel's phone when he's asleep tonight." My chest tightened. Now I was angry. This stranger was clearly trying to cause problems in my marriage. But as I locked my phone and placed it on the coffee table, I realized something uncomfortable. A small thought had already planted itself in my mind. A question I didn't want to ask. What if there was something I didn't know? The shower in the bathroom turned off. Daniel would come out any second, and suddenly, the quiet evening in our home didn't feel peaceful anymore, because for the first time in 6 years, I was thinking about checking my husband's phone, and I hated myself for even considering it. But what I would discover that night was something I never could have imagined. Daniel came out of the bathroom a few minutes later, drying his hair with a towel. He smiled when he saw me on the couch. "Long day?" he asked. I forced a small smile back. "Yeah, just tired." My voice sounded normal, calm, but inside my mind was racing. The message from the stranger kept repeating in my head. "Check Daniel's phone when he's asleep tonight." I hated the idea. Daniel had never given me a reason to doubt him. Not once in 6 years. He was kind, responsible, loyal. At least, that was the man I believed I married. We ordered takeout that night and watched a random movie on Netflix, the kind you forget 5 minutes after it ends. Normally, we talked during dinner. We joked. We shared things about our day. But that evening, something felt different. Or maybe it was just me. Every time Daniel's phone buzzed on the table, I felt my stomach twist slightly. He didn't hide the screen. He didn't act suspicious. Still, I noticed things I had never noticed before. Like how he quickly flipped the phone face down after reading a message, or how he kept it closer to him than usual. Maybe he always did that. Maybe I just never paid attention. And that thought scared me. Because once doubt enters your mind, it's almost impossible to remove. Later that night, we went to bed. Daniel fell asleep quickly, like he always did. Within minutes, his breathing became slow and steady. I stared at the ceiling. The room was dark except for a thin line of streetlight coming through the curtains. My heart was beating much faster than it should. I kept telling myself the same thing. Don't do it. Trust him. Ignore that stupid message. But another voice in my head whispered something else. If there's nothing to hide, you'll prove it. An hour passed, then another. Finally, I slowly turned my head toward the nightstand. Daniel's phone was lying there. So close. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. I picked it up carefully. My fingers trembled slightly as I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. Locked. Of course. For a second, I almost felt relief. Good, I thought. That settles it. But then I remembered something. A few months ago, Daniel had unlocked his phone in front of me. I had seen the pattern he used. I wasn't trying to memorize it, but my brain had noticed. Without thinking too much, I traced the pattern on the screen. The phone unlocked instantly. My breath caught. Now I felt like I'd crossed a line, but I had already gone too far to stop. I opened his messages. Most of them were normal. Work chats, friends, group conversations, nothing strange. My chest slowly relaxed. I almost laughed at myself. See? I thought. This is exactly what I expected. But then, one conversation near the top caught my attention. The contact name wasn't saved. It was just a number. Still, something about it felt strange. There were dozens of messages. My thumb hesitated. I didn't want to read them, because a terrifying thought suddenly crossed my mind. What if the stranger was telling the truth? What if opening this chat changed everything? I swallowed hard. Then I tapped the conversation. And the first message I saw made my entire body go cold, because the last text in the chat said, "Don't worry, she still doesn't suspect anything." And the person who sent that message was my sister Olivia. But the message Daniel sent right after that was even worse. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My eyes stayed locked on the screen, but my brain refused to process what I was seeing. It felt unreal, like I had opened the wrong phone. Like this conversation didn't belong to my husband or my sister, but it did. The message Daniel sent after Olivia's text was short, too short. Good. That was it. One single word. But it hit me harder than anything else could have. Good. Not confusion, not denial, not, "What are you talking about?" Just agreement. My hands started shaking. I scrolled up. Message after message appeared on the screen, and with each one, my heart sank deeper. At first, the conversation seemed almost innocent. Jokes, casual talk, things they could have easily said in front of me. But as I kept reading, the tone slowly changed. There were messages sent late at night, times when I was already asleep, small comments, private jokes I didn't understand, and then something else. Flirting. Subtle at first, but impossible to ignore once I saw it. My chest tightened. I felt like I was watching my entire life collapse in front of me, one message at a time. I wanted to stop. I really did, but I couldn't. I kept scrolling, and then I saw a message that made my stomach drop. Olivia had written, "Sometimes I wish things were different." There was a pause in the conversation. Hours passed between messages. Then Daniel replied, "What do you mean?" Another pause, then her answer, "You know exactly what I mean." My vision blurred slightly. I blinked, trying to stay focused. This couldn't be happening. Not them. Not like this. But it was, and it got worse. Much worse. A few days later in the chat, Olivia sent a photo. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a picture of her, standing in front of a mirror, wearing something inappropriate. Not something you send to your sister's husband. My chest felt tight. I scrolled down quickly, almost afraid of what I would see next. Daniel's response came just seconds later. "You're going to get us in trouble." My heart dropped even further. Us, not you. Us. Like they were already involved in something together. Like there was already a secret between them. My breathing became uneven. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. This wasn't just flirting. This wasn't just harmless messages. This was betrayal. And the worst part? It had been going on for months. Months. Right in front of me, family dinners, holidays, smiles. All of it fake. All of it hiding this. I felt something inside me break. But then, I noticed something strange. There were gaps in the conversation, large ones. Days, sometimes weeks, with no messages. That didn't make sense. If they were this close, why would they stop talking for so long? Unless, my heart skipped. Unless they were talking somewhere else, or meeting in person. The thought made me feel sick. I scrolled further down, near the most recent messages. That's when I saw something that changed everything. Olivia had written, "Tomorrow, same place?" And Daniel replied, "Yes. She'll be at work?" My entire body went cold. Tomorrow. They were planning to meet. Behind my back, while I was gone. I quickly checked the date. It was for the next day. Which meant they were going to see each other in less than 12 hours. I locked the phone and slowly placed it back on the nightstand. My hands were shaking uncontrollably now. I turned my head and looked at Daniel. He was sleeping peacefully, like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't just destroyed my entire world. For a moment, I felt tears fill my eyes, but they didn't fall. Instead, something else replaced them. Something colder. Something sharper. Anger. But not the kind that explodes immediately. No, this was different. This was quiet, controlled, dangerous, because in that moment, I realized something important. If I confronted them now, they would lie. They would deny everything. They would find a way to make me look crazy. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed proof, real proof, and more importantly, I needed to know how far this had gone. Because if they thought I didn't suspect anything, then maybe, just maybe, I could use that against them. I closed my eyes slowly, trying to calm my breathing. Tomorrow. They thought I would be at work. They thought I wouldn't know. And that was exactly why. I was going to follow them. But what I would see the next day was something I wasn't prepared for. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the messages again. Olivia's words, Daniel's replies, that single word, good. It echoed in my mind like a constant reminder that everything I believed in was already broken. By the time morning came, I felt exhausted, but I didn't let it show. Daniel woke up like any normal day. He stretched, yawned, and smiled at me. "Morning," he said softly. I forced a small smile. "Morning." I watched him carefully as he got ready for work, or at least pretended to, because now I knew the truth. He wasn't going to work. He was going to see her. My sister. The thought made my stomach twist, but I stayed calm. I had to. If I showed even the smallest sign that something was wrong, everything would fall apart. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. We had breakfast together. A normal breakfast. Toast, coffee, silence, at least on my side. Daniel seemed relaxed, maybe even happier than usual. And that hurt more than anything, because it meant he wasn't feeling guilty. Not even a little. When it was time to leave, I grabbed my bag and my keys. "I might be late today," I said casually. "Big workload." Daniel nodded. "Yeah, same here," he replied. The lie came out so easily. Too easily. I looked at him for a second longer than usual, trying to understand how I had missed this version of him, this stranger. Then I turned and walked out the door. But I didn't go to work. Instead, I got into my car and parked a few blocks away. My hands were gripping the steering wheel tightly. My heart was racing again. Minutes passed, then 20, then 30. Finally, I saw the front door of our house open. Daniel stepped outside. He looked around briefly, then walked to his car. Something about the way he moved felt different. Careful, almost cautious, like he didn't want to be seen. That alone confirmed everything. I waited until he drove away. Then I followed him, keeping enough distance so he wouldn't notice. Every turn he made, I made. Every stop, I stopped. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely focus. I kept thinking the same thing. Please let this be a misunderstanding, please. But deep down, I already knew it wasn't. After about 15 minutes, Daniel turned into a quiet street, a place I didn't recognize. Not near his office, not near anything familiar. He parked in front of a small apartment building. My breath caught. I slowed down and parked further away. My hands were shaking again. I watched as Daniel got out of the car. He checked his phone, then looked around. And then he walked toward the building entrance. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He walked in like he had been there before, like he knew exactly where he was going. My chest felt tight. I waited. 1 minute, 2, 5. Nothing happened. The door stayed closed. No one came out. I stared at the building, trying to understand what I was supposed to do next. I couldn't just sit there forever. But I also wasn't ready to walk in. Not yet. Because I had a feeling that once I stepped inside, there would be no going back. And that's when my phone buzzed. I flinched. My heart jumped, slowly. I looked down at the screen. It was a message from Olivia. My stomach dropped instantly. I opened it, and what she wrote made my blood run cold. "Are you at work yet?" For a moment, I just stared at her message. "Are you at work yet?" My fingers tightened around my phone. She wasn't just lying to me. She was checking, making sure I wasn't anywhere near the truth, making sure I stayed exactly where she thought I was, at work, far away, blind. I felt something inside me snap into place, all the confusion, all the pain. It didn't disappear, but it changed. It became focus, cold, sharp focus. I quickly typed back, "Yeah, just got here, busy already." I hit send. 3 dots appeared instantly. She was typing. Of course she was. "Okay, good. Call me later. I need to tell you something." I almost laughed. The audacity. I locked my phone and looked back at the apartment building. My husband was inside. My sister was inside. And they thought I was miles away. Perfect. I stepped out of the car. My legs felt weak for a second, but I forced myself to move, step by step, closer to the entrance. Each step felt heavier than the last, like I was walking towards something that would change my life forever. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. Not anymore. I reached the door. My hand hovered over the handle. This was it. The moment. Once I opened it, there would be no more doubts. Only truth. I took a deep breath. Then I pulled the door open and stepped inside. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. I looked around. 3 floors, a narrow staircase, old walls, nothing special. But somewhere in that building, they were together. I could feel it. I checked the mailboxes. No Olivia, no Daniel. Of course, they wouldn't use their real names. I moved toward the stairs slowly, trying to listen, trying to hear something, anything, and then a sound. Soft, faint, a laugh. My heart stopped. I knew that laugh. I had heard it my entire life. Olivia. It was coming from the 2nd floor. My chest tightened as I climbed the stairs. Each step felt like it echoed too loudly, like I was about to be caught. But no one came out. No one stopped me. I reached the 2nd floor. The hallway stretched in 2 directions. I stood still, listening. There it was again. Her voice, muffled, but clear enough, coming from one of the doors. I followed the sound slowly. My heart was beating so fast it almost hurt. I stopped in front of a door. Number 204. The voices were louder now. I could hear both of them. Daniel, Olivia, together. I stepped closer. My hand pressed lightly against the door. And then I heard something that made my entire body freeze. Olivia's voice, soft, almost playful. I can't believe she still trusts us. Silence for a second. Then Daniel laughed quietly. "I told you. She never suspects anything." My vision blurred. My chest felt like it was collapsing, but I forced myself to stay still, to listen, because I needed to hear everything, not just pieces, not just guesses, the full truth. Olivia spoke again. "And after this, what's the plan?" There was a pause. Longer this time. Then Daniel answered, calm, cold. We wait a little longer. My stomach twisted. Wait for what? For how long? Olivia sighed softly. "I'm getting tired of pretending." Daniel's voice dropped slightly. "Soon. Just be patient." Soon. The word echoed in my mind. Soon what? Soon they would tell me? Soon they would leave me, or something worse? I felt like I was about to break, but then Olivia said something that changed everything. Something I wasn't expecting. Something far worse than cheating. "Do you really think she'll give you the money that easily?" My heart stopped. "Money? What money?" There was a short silence. Then Daniel spoke. "She has no choice. Once we tell her everything, she'll do anything to keep her reputation." I couldn't breathe. My hands went cold. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a plan, a setup. They weren't just seeing each other behind my back. They were using me, manipulating me, planning something against me, my own husband, my own sister, together. And suddenly, everything made sense. The lies, the secret messages, the fake smiles. It wasn't just about feelings. It was about control, about money, about destroying me piece by piece. A tear finally rolled down my cheek, but I didn't wipe it away. Because in that moment, something inside me changed completely. The pain was still there, but it was no longer stronger than me, because now I understood everything. And more importantly, I knew exactly what I had to do next. I stepped back from the door quietly. My heart was still racing, but my mind was clear, sharp, focused. They thought they were in control. They thought I was weak. They thought I would panic, cry, beg. But they didn't know me at all. Not anymore. Because they had just made one very big mistake. They showed me their plan before they were ready to finish it. And that meant I had time. Time to prepare, time to think, time to destroy them the same way they tried to destroy me. But the way I was going to do it was something they would never expect. I didn't confront them that day. That was the first thing they got wrong about me. They thought I would react immediately, explode, make a scene. But I didn't. I walked back to my car slowly, got inside, and just sat there for a minute, breathing, thinking, planning. Because now this wasn't just about catching them. It was about winning. If I confronted them without proof, they would twist everything, make me look crazy, turn the story against me. No, I needed more, and I knew exactly where to start. I drove home and acted like nothing had happened. That evening, Daniel came back from work. He smiled, kissed me on the cheek, asked about my day. I smiled back, answered normally, played my role perfectly, and from that moment on, I became someone else. For 2 weeks, I watched, I listened, I collected everything, screenshots, photos, recordings, every message they sent, every meeting they had, every lie they told. I even followed them again, more than once, each time confirming the same thing. They were careful, but not careful enough, because they still believed I knew nothing. Olivia kept texting me like everything was normal, calling me, laughing, pretending to be my loving sister. It almost made me sick, but I played along, because the more comfortable she felt, the more careless she became. And Daniel? He started acting different too, colder, distant, like he was already preparing to leave, or worse, to use me. And then, one night, everything fell into place. I found what they were really planning. Not just the cheating, not just the manipulation, something bigger, much bigger. Daniel had been using my name, my credit, opening accounts, moving money, setting things up, so that everything would lead back to me. And Olivia was helping him. They weren't just planning to hurt me. They were planning to ruin me completely, financially, socially, legally. My hands trembled when I realized the full truth, but I didn't panic, because by then, I was ready. I had everything I needed, and I knew exactly how to end this. A week later, I invited them both to dinner, at our house, the same place where we used to laugh together, where we used to be a family. They had no idea what was coming. Olivia arrived first, smiling, confident, like always. Daniel came shortly after, calm, relaxed. They both thought they were in control. That was their final mistake. We sat down, started eating, talking, laughing, just like before. But then, I stood up, slowly, and looked at both of them. My heart was beating fast, but my voice was steady. I know everything. Silence, instant, heavy. Their faces changed. Confusion, shock, fear. I placed my phone on the table and pressed play, the recording. Their voices filled the room. Every word, every plan, every lie. Olivia's face went pale. Daniel froze. They tried to speak, to explain, to deny, but it was too late because I wasn't done. I smiled slightly, calm, cold. I've already sent everything to a lawyer. Their eyes widened. and the police. That was the moment everything broke, for them, not for me, because I had already survived the worst part, the betrayal. Now, it was their turn. Olivia started crying, begging. Daniel tried to stay calm, but I could see the panic in his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something different. Not pain, not anger, relief, because they didn't destroy me. They thought they would. They planned it. But in the end, they only destroyed themselves. And as I watched them fall apart in front of me, I realized something important. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most, but they forget one thing. They forget that you're stronger than they think, and that was the one mistake they would regret for the rest of their lives.